Hi guys, James at Rampant Lion Reviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one, we are going to stick to Sweden and we're going to return to a brewery that has featured on the channel a good number of times before. I've had some really nice beers from these guys over the years, and one of the things that I really love about this brewery is that they're not afraid to try different styles, and I always keep an eye out for the different things that these guys are releasing. But for this review then, we are going to head up towards Gothenburg once again, Göteborg as you would say in Swedish, the Swedish craft beer capital up there on the west coast. Got to get that Gothenburg catchphrase in when we're reviewing Gothenburg beers because it is just a bit of a channel tradition. And for this review, we are going to return to Beerbliotek once again, one of my favourite Swedish breweries, I have to say. So this particular beer is called Even More of Exactly the Same. It comes in at 7.5% ABV, and they're describing this one as a double IPA. So yeah, this is number 298 according to the Beerbliotek numbering system, and it was released as part of the Lokal och Småskaligt assortment through Systembolaget here in Sweden for March of 2021. And this is one of maybe 3 beers that you'll see me review across March from at Beerbliotek. So yeah, really looking forward to seeing how this one turns out, and hopefully you guys enjoy my take on this beer as well. So nice to have another double IPA from these guys. So yeah, let's see how we get on then. So as always with my reviews, I'll tell you a little bit about the brewery before we taste the beer. If you want to get straight to the tasting, just fast forward. All the usual links are in the video description below. That's the brewery website, the link to my other reviews that I've done from Beerbliotek before, and there will no doubt be more added to that list in the near future, even beyond this month. But there's all the usual social media down there. If you want to see more reviews, do please consider subscribing to the channel. The whole channel, of course, has a geography-based tagging system, so you can go into the homepage and search for beer based on country, city, state, county, province, prefecture, whatever it is you happen to be interested in. Do check out the playlists of beers from different countries. There is one there for all the Swedish beers that I've reviewed for you. That's constantly being added to. And as always, please do get in touch and let me know some of the other beers and breweries that you guys would like to see me review. It's always great to hear from you guys that are watching the videos, and the support that you show the channel is hugely appreciated. So anyway, to tell you a little bit about Beerbliotek then, on to my brewery notes. So Beerbliotek, as I've mentioned to you already, are based in Gothenburg, Göteborg, up on the Swedish west coast, and the company was founded back in 2013 by a multinational group of friends. So this is Adam Norman, who's from Australia, Richard Bull, who's a Kiwi from New Zealand, Anders Hedlund, who is Swedish, and then Darl de Necker, who comes from South Africa. And I've spoken to him quite a few times through Messenger and things like that. But Adam and Richard ran Bar Doppio in Gothenburg, and then Darl and Anders were regular customers at the bar, and they often just used to sit and talk about beer and different styles and brewing and things like this. And then one day they decided to buy a brew kit and actually brew their own beer, and let's just say it's gone quite well for them. But the original brewery is in the old Klippan Sugar building, and this is a really nice old building very close to the old Carnegie Brewery in Gothenburg, which is quite a famous brewery. I still need to review the old Carnegie Bryggeriets Porter, because that is quite a famous beer, just another one that I've never gotten round to. But the brew kit that they had in there is from Brewfab in Scotland, and I believe it went to Stockholm Brewing for a period of time after that. But in the first year of operations, they brewed around 38 different varieties of beer, and they were selling all their beers in very small batches because they wanted to stick to the kind of home brewing roots of very rarely brewing the same beer. They still don't have a so-called kind of fixed range, if you like, and they're always brewing brand new beers, but there are ones that, you know, go down very well, and they tend to rebrew those as well. A Passion for Gingers was one. There's been a couple of the black IPAs I think have reappeared. You know, every year they do a reiteration of Eternal Dankness and Eternal Darkness. So, you know, there are beers that do reappear with slight kind of tweaks, if you like. So yeah, that's definitely worth making a note of. They do have some beers that make returns every so often. But in 2015 they opened a second brewery in Kungston, which is where they have their main tap room, and they now run their main brewing operations out of there. And the older brewery is used just for producing sour beers now, from what I understand, and they've also been doing a lot of barrel aging in the new brewery as well. The strange thing though is that they've barrel aged a lot of beers, but they don't seem to release those through Systembolaget. I've only ever had one beer from the barrel aged section actually, and I would love to have a few more of them, but they just don't release them through Systembolaget as far as I can see. It does tend to be the IPAs and other things that they release through there. So fingers crossed we get a few more of the barrel-aged ones at some stage. But yeah, I wonder if the main reason for that is maybe that they're, you know, tasting them and then deciding from the taste when they should be released. So maybe that's what they're doing, and that makes it a bit difficult for the paperwork, because obviously you've got to submit paperwork to Systembolaget 3 months in advance. So yeah, that could be an issue. But then again, when it's barrel-aged beer, 3 months isn't going to make much of a difference. But yeah, I'd love to see more of the barrel-aged stuff. But anyway, back to the brewery history. When it comes to the name Beerbliotek, the main idea is that they wanted to create a wide variety of beers that the customers would always learn something from, you know, be it a new hop variety, a new malt, a new yeast, or something like that. So they took the Swedish word for library, bibliotek, put beer in there, and so you've got Beerbliotek. So quite a clever name. But as of March 2021, when I'm reviewing this beer for you, they've produced it in the region of 280 different beers, and this one, as you can see, is number 298 according to their own numbering system. But they're always producing different stuff, and you know, if they've only had to throw away a couple of batches or something like that, that's not a bad return actually. When they've got 280 beers listed there and they're getting close to the 300 on their numbering system, I think that is a fairly good return actually. I have heard that some of the recipes just haven't worked out and have been thrown away, but the thing that's really impressive about Beerbliotek is that they put so many beers out there and they tend to be really good, a little bit like Tool and things like this actually. These guys are kind of like the Swedish version of Tool almost, but obviously not a gypsy brewery in the early days. But yeah, that's all I can really tell you about Beerbliotek for the moment. Always worth trying some of the new beers from these guys. What I would say is just pick a style of beer that you enjoy, have a look at what Beerbliotek have on offer within that style bracket, and go for it, and you probably will get a very good beer out of it. But yeah, as I say, that's all I can really tell you about Beerbliotek for the moment. If you want to learn more about these guys, you can check out the brewery website. You can follow them on Facebook and Instagram to keep up to date with all the latest goings on, and you can check out the Rate Beer, Untappd and Beer Advocate pages to learn a bit more about all those different beers that they've done. And they have got a very extensive list of things on the on the website there as well, all the different barrel-aged ones and stuff like this. They've got a Scotch ale that I would absolutely love to try, but yeah, we'll see about that in the future, who knows. But anyway, let's get on and actually have a taste of this beer itself then. So I'll just let you have a little quick look at the artwork on this one, and it is, to be honest, quite typical of what you would expect from Beerbliotek. They've always got these nice patterns, and then the bee with the book sort of thing, like the library. As you can see at the bottom there, even more of exactly the same, number 298, 7.5% double IPA, 330ml can. This one apparently is hopped with Citra, Cascade, Columbus and Cashmere, so it should be quite interesting. All four of those are American hops, of course. So Citra, as we know, about 14% alpha acid, lovely mango notes. Cascade is the original American, I guess you could say, high alpha acid hop, although it's only 8% compared to some of the newer ones. Lots of grapefruit and some red fruity notes out of it. Columbus is the bittering hop, lots of big spicy notes in there. I think about 12% alpha acid if I remember rightly. And Cashmere has that melony, lemon limey sort of thing. It's a really interesting one, that. But yeah, it says on the side here, each day brings us the challenge and opportunity to brew something new, and yet somehow something exactly the same. We have even more of exactly the same at beerbliotek.com. But yeah, I always like how they put the little Swedish flag on the cans as well. Product of Sweden, which is pretty good. 330ml can, and I think I paid about 35 Swedish kroners or something like that for this. So about €3.50, £3 sterling, just over that, and maybe about $4 or so American for this can. But yeah, 7.5% double IPA, which is low for a double IPA, to be honest with you. This is probably the very edge of what you could consider to be a double IPA. But yeah, let's get it out and we'll get on with the tasting then. Very curious about this one. Even more of exactly the same. I've had some really nice IPAs in recent times from Beerbliotek, and probably the one that sticks in mind most from recent times was the Muck, which was one that they did with that was one that they did with Apex Brewing Company from Norra near Örebro, and that's a very nicely done. That's a very nicely done kind of New England IPA. Actually, it was a very nice big creamy thing, that. So yeah, these guys are very good at lots and lots of different styles actually. So yeah, let's have a little look at this one then. As you can see, this one's got a very nice, rich, it's got a very nice, rich, bright yellow colour I would say. You've got a nice kind of about a half finger of a frothy, I would say perfect white head. There's one or two big bubbles sticking towards the side of the glass. There's a few little ones going up towards the bottom of the head there, and I mean overall it looks pretty nice. But yeah, lovely bright yellow colour, quite akin to a mango juice. I always like comparing these IPAs to different fruit juices, especially the hazy ones like this, because that's just what they really remind me of. But I'm not sure if this one is intended to be a New England IPA, because normally they would actually say double New England IPA or New England double IPA, something like that. Does it say in the ingredients? Yeah, this one's just got wheat in it, so this one must be intended as more of a kind of West Coaster or something like that. West Coasters can have a little bit of oat and a little bit of wheat in them, but if it's only wheat that's kind of listed here, then I'm guessing it is maybe more intended to be more of a kind of West Coaster, and the fact that it doesn't say New England as well. But it certainly looks like a nice beer. There is a good level of haziness to that. Remember, the level of haziness in these beers usually does depend on the wheat and the oats, and the yeast can play a role in there as well, and the colour depends on the malts, the different types of malts that you use in the beer, as well as your the length of your wort boil. The longer you boil the wort, the more the sugars caramelise, thus you get a darker colour. But you have, in this case, you're probably talking about a 90-minute boil or something like that. But it looks very, very nice, I have to say. So yeah, let's take a closer look at the aroma of this one and see how we get on. Nothing particularly surprising about this beer when you consider the appearance of it. So yeah, let's go for it then. Smells pretty nice, actually. Yeah, straight away with this one, you can smell the malty characters in it. It's got a wee touch of that kind of almost farmhousey thing, so I wonder if this is maybe a London fog yeast or something that's being used in here. It does smell distinctively more kind of New England, to be honest with you, but at the same time you've got a big green component of the within this one. And when you have Columbus in the hop bill in this one, is going to give you a big bit of kind of spicy bitterness. But the other thing that's noteworthy about this beer is the presence of cashmere, and some of the notes that you get out of this cashmere can combine with certain yeasts and give you this really almost farmhousey vibe, and that's what I'm getting out of this one. That's why I wonder if it's a London fog yeast in here, because cashmere does this really strange thing with London fog yeasts, and it gives you a sort of almost woody, crackery kind of undertone in the aroma, and you can really smell that in this one. So yeah, it's a really interesting hop. But the aroma of this beer is pretty nice. It's quite a citrusy and zesty IPA overall, I would say. I really like how this one goes about its business. So yeah. On the malty side of things then, you've got a nice smooth sort of white bready backbone to it. Yeah, definitely a good little bit of white breadiness in there. You've got that forming the backbone of the beer. There's a little touch of bread crusty quality in there. Then you've got a nice big sort of wheaty bitiness to this beer. In some ways the aroma comes across as very smooth in the malt base, but then you've got the big wheaty bitiness. And you've also just got, you can smell just a little bit of that more kind of grainy bread crusty quality to this one too. It's quite an interesting malt base from that perspective. But yeah. So yeah, this one's quite interesting. There's little hints in there of a West Coaster, and there's also little hints of something a bit more New Englandy, which is quite interesting. But there is a wee touch of that woody, farmhousey, crackery sort of thing, which I suspect is coming from the mix of the cashmere and the yeast, which is quite interesting. But yeah, good bit of bitey wheatiness in there, some bread crusty elements, nice little bit of smooth white bread, then a wee touch of definitely a wee touch of a kind of caramelly. There's a bit of, I don't know if it goes as far as caramelly, there's a wee bit of a kind of Werther's Original butter candy, brown sugary sort of thing. So yeah, I do like how this beer goes about its business. But yeah, the malty side of things I think goes together really nicely. Yeah, so I don't know if there's too much more to say about the malty side of things than that. I think it does bring out a little bit of biscuity character the more that you smell of it, in honesty. But I can really appreciate that about it. I think this is going to be quite a nice beer from the malty side of things. But yeah, it gets a thumbs up from me in that regard. But on the hoppy side of things, I would say this beer, it does have a wee tiny touch of earthiness to it, but the green component in this beer is big and floral, if you like. and that kind of makes sense. You know, the Columbus in this one I suspect will be being used as the bittering hop, potentially a little bit of the Cascade as well. So you've got that nice big green component in this one. It's very bright, but it's also got a bit of spiciness underneath, and on the front of the nose you've got a real grassy zestiness to this one, and the Cashmere is going to contribute a lot to that, but then Citra as well has its own sort of lemon limey kind of things that can contribute too. So that's worth bearing in mind as well. But yeah, the fruity side of things in this beer is also really interesting, but I think in terms of green components, yeah, quite big and floral, little touch spicy, then you've got a nice kind of grassy edge to the beer as well, but yeah, wee touch of earthiness, and that also and that just that kind of goes together with the malty base quite nicely. But let's focus on the fruity side of things to round off the aroma. So for me, yeah, with this one, if you sugar the beer up, you've got a nice little bit of a kind of passion fruity quality to it. There is a wee touch of that in there, but you've got quite a bit of a juicy mango-y quality to this one as well. That's the Citra, so you're getting the nice big mango components from the Citra and just a little bit of the more pungent things that they can give you. I'm also getting a wee bit of the Cascade sort of sitting underneath, which I do like. You are getting a wee bit of a kind of soft reddy sort of thing to it, a little bit of a soft red fruit kind of quality in there. So I can appreciate how that pieces together in this one as well. So yeah, the fruity side in this beer has a nice sort of more tropical and sort of almost slightly figgy backbone to it, which is interesting for sure. But then you've also got you've got a nice little bit of a kind of melony, lemon limey sort of thing as well from the Cashmere. The melon, I think, is the most prominent note from the Cashmere, and that kind of sits a little bit more at the front of the nose, but then you've got that lemon limey thing kind of mixing in with the grassy components of the beer. So yeah, I really like how the fruity side in this beer kind of goes together. I think this is going to be quite an interesting one and potentially a little bit different from the other ones I've had from Beerbliotek in the past. But if you know the hops in this beer, this one does give you what you would expect. A bit of lemon lime, a nice little bit of a kind of melony quality, some good mango-y elements as well. And so yeah, I can really appreciate how this one goes about its business. So thumbs up to Beerbliotek for this one. I think it really works very nicely actually. So yeah, good aroma on this one, but I think it's about time that we try this. So this one is called Even More of Exactly the Same, a double IPA coming in at 7.5% ABV from Beerbliotek up in Gothenburg. Cashmere, Citra, Columbus, and Cascade in this one. Let's go for it then. Slàinte, skål, cheers. That's really pretty solid in my opinion. Is it the craziest and best IPA that I've had from Beerbliotek? Not quite, I would say that. I would say not quite about that on that kind of measure. But is it really solid, and is it kind of the quality you'd expect from Beerbliotek? Yeah, definitely. You can definitely feel it's got a wee bit more of a kind of bitterness and bite to it as well, which is a bit different compared to the muck that we had from them before. Sounds bad to say that, from the muck that we had from them. Yeah, the Apex collaboration. I'm trying to think, did I have another IPA from them after that? I can't remember actually. But yeah, I always have had quite a few different beers from Beerbliotek. This must be the 25th or so review that I've done from these guys, but I just enjoy their beers, and you know, it's nice to review the breweries that you enjoy and try different things from them. But yeah, this is a good one. This is a solid one, but like I say, maybe not quite the craziest and most striking one that you're going to get from them, I would say. So yeah, it's got a nice, the other impression I have of this one is it's got a nice big sort of oily sort of thing to it, and it almost does come across as a little bit more of a kind of hybrid. There's a few elements in New England in there, but then you've got a few elements of a West Coaster as well. So yeah, it's a little bit of a hybrid IPA, this one, but overall it's a really nice and drinkable beer actually. And as I said earlier, it's 7.5%. It's one of the lower alcohol double IPAs that you're going to come across. But yeah, let's try and break down the flavour for you then and see where we go. So straight away with this one, across the middle of your palate, you've got a nice kind of smooth backbone to it. You can feel that soft kind of white bready note there, but it does, you know, the further you go into the aftertaste, in that middle third of your palate, you do get some more kind of grainy elements pushing their way out of the beer, which I can really appreciate. So yeah, the malty backbone in this one, I think, goes together really nicely. But yes, soft white bready quality there. It does dry out a little bit the further you go into the aftertaste, and you get a wee bit of a sort of kind of bitiness out of it there as well. But yeah, on the border between the middle third and back third of your palate, you've got a little bit of a, you do have a wee bit of a, you see, you can feel a little bit more of a kind of bready backbone to it, which I do. You can feel a little bit the breadiness just kind of thickening up a wee bit. Then you get more of a kind of grainy bread crusty quality sitting on the top of that. But then on the back third of your palate, you've got a nice bit of a sort of wheaty. You've got a nice bit of a wheaty backbone to this one. But then yeah, the yeasty characters just kind of build up on that back third of the palate. So yeah, you can feel that it's a little bit thicker and a bit more kind of fluffy and things like that on that back third of the tongue, which I really like. So yeah, it's interesting, this one. It does have a little bit of an almost white IPA element to it, because of that little bit of wheaty bitiness it's got on the back of the tongue, and you can clearly feel in that back third of your tongue as you move further forward, the thickness drops away gradually. Then when you reach that border region, it goes down quite significantly, and then you've got a nice bit of density as you go further forward. You can feel the breadiness in there. You can feel a little bit of the kind of, you can a bit of the bread crusty kind of grainy quality that evolves out of this beer as well. In the very centre of your palate, you've got a nice kind of butter candy sort of Werther's Original sort of thing, and maybe as you move out from the edge of that, just a little bit of biscuit. But yeah, it's a really smooth malt base, this one. It is more of a kind of Werther's Original sort of thing there. Those are the alcohol flavours, of course, coming out of the beer, but the malt base is actually quite straight shooting in a lot of ways. But I like it. It's got a little bit of a white IPA element to it. It's got a little bit of a kind of New England sort of thing, but it's got a bit of the kind of, it's maybe got a bit of the oiliness of the West Coasters as well, to be honest with you. But yeah, let's move on to the hoppy side of the beer then. In the back corners of the palate, you do get a little bit of earthiness in this one. As you move further forward, it very quickly becomes quite spicy and floral, if you like, and that's undoubtedly the Columbus that's giving you that. It's got quite a big floral sort of bitey thing in this one, so I like that about it for sure. That gives you more of a kind of West Coasty character, and that dominates the side of the palate. But then round the front curve of the tongue, the beer's distinctly more light and sort of grassy, if you like. And yeah, I do like how that side of it goes together. But yeah, the grassiness in this one, I quite like that. It kind of lingers there into the aftertaste as well. It's just got a wee touch of zestiness to it, but the grassiness really works well with the fruity side of this beer. And I think the fruits and the grassiness in this beer for me are the highlight that you get out of this one. I really like the way that these fruity flavours are pushing their way out of the beer. So yeah, let's focus on that then, just to round off the tasting section of the video. So on the border between front third and middle third of your palate, you can feel again there's a little bit of a kind of thickness coming out of the beer. You get a little bit of a kind of grainy bread crusty type quality as well, which I really like. And then the base of that front third of your tongue is a little bit more kind of white bready again, but you do get a wee bit of graininess really comes out of this beer the further you go into the aftertaste as well. But yeah, the back of that front third of your palate, just on that border thing there, you do get a nice little bit of kind of that stronger passion fruity, grapefruity sort of thing. That'll be coming from the Citra, I would say. Then as you move further forward, it very quickly gets a little bit of a kind of a big juicy mango. Then as you reach the very middle region for that front third of your tongue, you can feel those sort of almost slightly figgy notes from the Cascade. I've always found that Cascade has this juicy, very light, figgy, red fruity sort of thing to it, and you can pick that out in this beer quite abundantly. But Cascade also has the ability to kind of push out some of the more pungent citrusy tropical flavours, if that makes sense, the passion fruit and the grapefruit and things. So you do get a little bit of that in this beer. So yeah, it's that kind of side of things. is that side of things is quite nice in this one as well. But when you move on to the front half of that front third of your palate, this is where the more kind of citrusy and zesty sort of thing comes out of the beer. So you can feel the nice oily melony flavours from the cashmere sitting on top of that. But I think underneath that, it does actually come out as being a little bit more limey, and then as you progress further forward, it develops a little bit more of a kind of lemony character, and then on the very front edge of the tongue there's a good bit of a sort of grassiness to it as well. So I really like how that side of things goes together in this beer as well. I think it's got a really nice kind of oily fruity character to it, this one. So yeah, it gets a thumbs up from me on that note, I would say. So yeah, I think it does go together really well from that perspective. But yeah, it's certainly very, very nice. So yeah, thumbs up from me on this beer. As I say, not the most striking one that you're going to find from Beerbliotek, but certainly another very good quality beer. And that's what you really have to compliment this brewery on, is the level of consistency that they have. They're always putting like solid beers out there that you can't knock. So yeah, another solid one this. But yeah, let's kind of round off the review then on the mouthfeel. So yeah, in terms of the mouthfeel of this one then, I would describe this beer as being kind of top end of mid-bodied. The carbonation is very smooth, it's got a bit of oiliness to it, which I really quite like. It does lean towards that more oily end of the spectrum. So yeah, it's got a good sort of more West Coasty type bitterness to it, this one. I think this beer might be about 50 or 60 IBUs. It's definitely up there. You can feel the Columbus pushing its way out of this beer, definitely. And the fruity side of the beer is nice and oily. There's a good bit of juicy tropical note to it, but then it's got a wee bit more of a kind of zesty, citrusy end to it as well. But yeah, so I guess maybe the kind of citrusy, zesty sort of thing and the hoppy part of the beer are a little bit more West Coaster. The malt base is a bit of a hybrid between New England and West Coast as well. So it maybe does lean a little bit more towards a kind of slightly white, a wheaty leaning West Coast IPA, I would say. But I certainly like how it goes about its business, and it gets a thumbs up from me. Is it the best IPA that I've had from Beerbliotek? You know, it's not the most striking of ones, as I've said before, but is it really solid? Yeah, it's a really nice drinkable beer, this one. You wouldn't think twice about having a pint of this or whatever in the Beerbliotek tap room. But well done to them again. I look forward to seeing what the black IPA has in store for us in a few videos time as well. But yeah, let's leave it there then. So this one is even more of exactly the same. 7.5% double IPA from Beerbliotek in Gothenburg up on the Swedish west coast. Been nice to return to these guys. Feels like a little while since my last beer from them, but you will see another 2 videos from them this month actually, or I think maybe the third one will come out in April. We'll just need to see. But yeah, let's leave it there then. Once again, thank you for watching my beer reviews. Until the next time, please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. Let me know your own thoughts on this beer in the comment section below. Let me know what your favourite beers are from Beerbliotek, and we will no doubt return to these guys again soon. Thank you for watching, and I'll catch you guys very soon. Even more of exactly the same, number 298 in the Beerbliotek numbering system from Beerbliotek in Gothenburg on the Swedish west coast. Slange, skull, cheers, and catch you in the next review.